So good morning. So this morning I will talk about single-page application with RaveJS and Grails. My name is Fabrice Matrat, so you will recognize that I have a lovely French accent. I'm coming from the French Riviera. There I'm running the Groovy Grails user group. I'm also writing Grails plugin for mobile app on evening, participating to cujoJS and part of the JavaScript user group. During the day, I was a Java architect at Amadeus, building 120 websites for airlines. But I changed job recently, and I will start a new job next week to become a front-end JavaScript developer for Canonical. So inside this presentation, I will be strongly opinionated about everything, and this is only my own point of view. So first thing is, let's define what single-page applications are. Traditionally, we had this client server going back and forwards with HTML coming. That was a traditional life cycle we had before. On single-page application, the idea is to get an initial request and get most of your HTML and some of your JavaScript. And then it's all AJAX-based communication from then on. So one thing, it means that you will need different layers in your JavaScript application, where there is not only like display things, but all the business logic, which are sitting inside the client JavaScript application. And there is data model inside your client application, and some local storage if you want to work offline. So the characteristics of this single-page application are that first they fit on a single page. They are able to persist some client state, and as I say, they load on initial page lots of stuff, and then asynchronously they will get other features. So the pro around the single-page app are about having a responsive UI and be able to do like a real desktop-like application. You only work with raw data. You are not sending HTML anymore. You are really sending only the data after. You are able to cache and work offline, and you can use one of the best language, JavaScript. OK. So the cons is for websites, there is a huge problem with search engine, and it has not been solved yet. The other thing is, I put that in cons, is JavaScript. So it depends on who you are. When I work at Amadeus, I was working for this kind of desktop application that were used 8 hours a day. So you can see that it's a full desktop application. And starting next week, I will work also for Juju in Canonical, which is also a single-page app. So here are a few samples. They are quite different from like website. And for example, search engine optimization is not something that I was carrying, in fact, because they are not published on the web. They were applications for professionals. If you look at Grails, we have this great things where we have all our model, view controller. Everything is set up in Grails. It's a great framework. Everything is working fine. But for the views, we are still, some people are still using GSPs. And GSPs, for me, are really old-fashioned. I think a lot of people have stopped using JSPs like 5–10 years ago already. So if you still want to do some single-page application, there was a great presentation at cujoJS from Rob Fletcher, who was able to show how to do an hybrid version, so a mix between JSPs and SPAs that was working for search engine optimization. So I encourage you to look at that one. One thing also is when you look at the main reason why you would choose to do a single-page app might not be like really to have like huge performance improvement. So here is like a benchmark that someone did for his application. He used different client-side application and he used a server-side templating. And you can see that the server-side templating is at the bottom like the other one. I like this one because Angular goes up. So it's getting worse and worse. Because Angular is not always the solution for everything. For the relation between Grails and JavaScript, there is really a hate-love relationship between JavaScript and Grails. In the Grails plugin, there was a long time ago, there was a UI performance plugin done by Bert Beckwith, who was there to help around the build step around JavaScript. So everything around minification, zipping, caching, giving some like tag libs for be able to work around JavaScript easily, like putting your JavaScript at the bottom automatically. And everything was like Grails friendly. But it was really concentrating around the build step of your application. Then there was the resource plugin who was really used. And one of the advantages was to deal with dependencies. That was not the case with the UI performance plugin. The main issue with the resource plugin was the fact that it was caching some of the resources, and you had to put like a debug equal true in your URL to be able to reload dynamically your JavaScript. And that was really basically a pain in the ass. So now in Grails, we will work with the asset plugin, which is much better. So it has file dependency also. The assets which are inside the plugin are like regular assets. So that's great. You don't have anymore to put in the URL the debug equal true. So it's a better development environment. It has all the pre-processing before the startup of the application. So everything is faster for when you start Grails. And if you want to integrate other technologies around JavaScript, it's much better. So the asset plugin is really the latest version of things we can do with JavaScript and CSS, helping around it. One thing it does is this dependency. And the way it does it is by using the require inside the JavaScript. So it's like / equals, and you have require or require self or require tree. So require, you provide a path where you can find your JavaScript file. Require self, you ask Grails to figure out where can be the file. And require tree allow you to load a bunch of files together. For me, this is a typical example of this love-hate relationship. I will show you later, but there is a lot of module solution in JavaScript. So reinventing a new way of doing it is, for me, wrong. I would have preferred that they choose an existing solution instead of reinventing something. Also, like things like require tree is like doing an import star in your Java or Groovy code. So it's an anti-pattern. So you shouldn't really use it. So there is many reasons why I don't like this way of using modules in JavaScript. One thing also is it seems that everyone is jumping on jQuery and thinking that JavaScript is jQuery or jQuery is JavaScript. So jQuery is good. It has like a good documentation. It's mature. There was a lot of tuning around it. It's nicely done, like lots of tuning basically. There is wide adoption. Before, it was perhaps a better DOM manipulation API, but I think with HTML5, it's not anymore. One thing, jQuery is like a FAT. It's like a FAT JavaScript library that is loaded on your application. There is no separation of concern. So when you develop in your GUI code, you don't mix everything. In jQuery, you have like CSS manipulation at the same place that you have Ajax call, at the same place that you have everything, basically. So everything is together. There is no modules, no separation of concern. And one typical example is also, for example, there is an implementation of promise in jQuery. It's broken from the start, and they refuse to fix it. So for me, it's like, I will not use like jQuery all the time. And by default, in Grails, when you scaffold, you have already a jQuery installation. So it's like, and in the same way, it seems that everyone is using Bootstrap on the CSS side. My main concern with Bootstrap is when I look at a website, I can tell you that this one is done with Bootstrap because it's every website looks the same with Bootstrap. So, and there is a weight associated with Bootstrap also. So, is that enough to work with JavaScript and Grails? I will tell you no. One thing that people should understand is they really have to embrace the JavaScript community. There is a huge energy around the JavaScript community. And it came from the Node.js was really a revolution in this world. It brings a lot of stuff in this community. So it's one tool that if you want and you are serious about doing client-side application, you have to install Node.js and work with it. One thing is the build step, because JavaScript now and HTML need a build script. What you should use is probably Grunt. That's one of the most well-known build. It's a task runner, in fact, that allows you to build your web application. And basically, at first, it was a task runner with a few simple tasks that was allowing to like concatenate all your files, do some minification, linting, running your unit test, running your integration test. So it started that way as a task runner to run this kind of task. But today, there is like around 3,400 plugins for Grunt. So there is a Grunt plugin for everything. And they just remove all the built-in tasks. And everything is based on the idea to have like simple configuration and a life cycle inside the build. So to install it, because you already have installed Node now on your PC, you go npm install and you get the Grunt CLI, and then you can run Grunt. What you do is you have a Grunt file.js where you put, here it's an example of minification with a glyph, and you put that, it's a configuration file basically. The next one which is coming is trying to basically replace Grunt. It's Gulp. And it's a bit different from Grunt. So Grunt is like a config file. So it's like the XML version. Where Gulp, I would say, is code over configuration. So it's more like the Gradle build. basically. And it's much faster because it's stream-based. It works really with Node.js. And everything is linked to have like simple and elegant API. So I really enjoy working with Gulp. There is already 800 plugins on it. So here is an example where I'm using Stylus. It's a CSS processor. So you define some types and you pipe the different tasks in it. Also, once you have set up your build script, you want to use an MVC. That's really one of the main things that you would like to use inside your single page application. So there is around 70 MVC that you can choose from. I put the link of the to-do MVCs where there is a lot of comparison between the different MVCs that exist on the client side. So I put a few examples here going from Backbone, Ember, cujoJS, and Angular. But you can choose your own depending on your needs. One thing which is important is everything around package and module. One thing that John, who is here, said is that the future of JavaScript is about module and not frameworks. So first, we have to define what is a package and a module. So a package is basically a set of one or more modules, which are there to work together. And a module is a way to expose either an object or a function in a way that you respect isolation, namespacing, and private state. So in JavaScript, there is this idea of having the module pattern with these three things, so isolation, namespacing, and private state. The way I put a simple example here in JavaScript where we create a module at start, and inside this module, what we do is we have this private variable. So var private variable equals 1, and this one is really private. And everything which you do on those lines are in isolation here. And what you expose will be this my object, where you put your module property and your module method on it, and that's what you will expose to the external world. And at the end, you have a var my module equal new module if you want to use this module. So there is ways in JavaScript to respect isolation and private state, because some people think you can't do that in JavaScript. To be able to look at all the modules and packages that you have available, there is NPM. And inside the NPM repository, there is 90,000 packages available. That's what I said before. There is a lot of things happening in the JavaScript community. And they are providing a lot of tools. So NPM will allow you to install those packages and manage them. So you can search on them. Simple way of installing, for example, Angular, you do an npm install Angular, and you have the package Angular available. You can uninstall it, you can update it, and you can search, if you want, on your command line for different things. What people are saying is like, but Node and NPM are for the server side, and I am a front-end engineer, I want something for the front-end, and because for my backend I'm using Grails and not Node.js and NPM. So there is a second package manager which is designed only for the web. So it's one of the most popular ones. I think that's the only one that will stay. There is it's Bower, and it's around 20,000 packages, especially designed for the website, for the web side. And it's really exactly the same thing. So it's bower install and bower uninstall. I put the ---- save here, but I will explain later why. The main difference between npm and bower is that for bower, basically because it's managing all the dependency and it's designed for the web, it tries to install only once a package. npm forces you to use the cujoJS specification, but bower doesn't make any assumption around how is written the module. I would say, in fact, bower is more simplistic compared to npm in general. Now that we can install those modules, we need to expose them and use them inside our code. And that's where the fun begins. There is already 3 different types of format. So for exposing and using modules, so there is a cujoJS, AMD, and Harmony module. There is a great link here from Adi Osmani, which really explains in details the main advantage and how to use them really in detail. So if you want, you can read this link. The way it works is in cujoJS, you just use the export to export your module method, and that's, for me, a nice way to do it. The way you use it is you use a famous require. So you can see, as I said before, in the asset plugin, there was exactly the same thing as this require. In AMD, it's a bit more complicated because this one is designed for the browser. So you have this ceremony with a define function at the top. I think it's a bit heavier in terms of things that you can put. You have to put around it, but it works very well with the browser itself. And the latest one, which is coming now, is the Harmony module. Harmony module are coming from ES6, so the next version of the JavaScript language. And basically, you have an export function, and you can import your module. So this one is fully understandable also, an export function, an import function, to be able to use this module. But one of the things is I show here, there is like 3 module format. In JavaScript world, there is different languages. So I put here Dart and ECMAScript 5, ECMAScript 6, there is many more, CoffeeScript, etc. In the CSS world, there is like preprocessor like Sass, Less, Stylus. There is different build tools, there is different linters, there is different JavaScript unit tests, and different package manager. So we can see that there is a lot of stuff around it, which means that there is a lot of boilerplate code, configuration, setup to do, which makes life complicated. Even if we look inside Grails, we have exactly the same kind of things. If we look just at the dependency management in Grails, so I'm not speaking about JavaScript anymore, but just to do a parallel. It started with EV to do the dependency management, but it had a lot of problems with snapshot and package type. So they were moving to Heather, which is a Maven library, in fact. And they will move again to Gradle. So you see that there is different type of build step and build tools that is used in Grails and makes things complicated also. If we now come back to the JavaScript part, not only there is a few plugins I showed you before, but there is 115 plugins just for CSS and 166 plugins for JavaScript available. So it's the same for me. And it's exactly the same problem of having boilerplate, configuration and setup, and understanding of all these things working together. And for me, basically, it's a total mess on both sides today. So what can be the solution? So it's RaveJS. RaveJS is here to eliminate all this configuration, all this boilerplate code, all this machinery and complexities that live around the JavaScript world. That's the goal. It's not a framework by itself. It's basically using different frameworks. So it's really an integration with all these frameworks. So we will not force people to go inside the Rave philosophy. It will still use the normal way of working. The way to use it first is to take metadata which are inside the package manager, and the package author, when it's publishing a package, he also puts some metadata. And Rave is using this metadata to set up the environment. So in Bower, for example, there is things that we can use, which is in the bower.json, there is like a main property where it says where is your main entry point. And there is a description of the different dependency of your modules. And we can put a module type which helps to know which kind of module you are, if you are like AMD, Harmony, or Node type. If we look at it, that's a bower.json example. So here we can see that we have 3 dependencies on mail, Dwayne, and Polly, which are the runtime dependency, and that during development there is other dependency, but it's only for development. On package.json, which is the NPM version, there is a lot more, in fact, metadata that you can use, and especially around dependencies. But it's still the same kind of feeling, where there is a lot of data which are there, which can help to set up the application. One thing that is great with Rave is that you are not forced to use either Bower or either NPM. You can just use both and mix them. And you are able to use Node modules inside the browser. It will also include an ES6 polyfill, so it will be able to have the ability to load Harmony module. So it's really ready for the future. What you can do is also module authors can provide Rave extension, or people who are using and doing a lot of times the same kind of code, they can create a Rave extension. And this Rave extension, they can just then install it and not have to repeat the same code over and over again. And this Rave extension, the idea is to do them not only for like loading your modules, but also like for building, deploying, testing your application. So it's to get rid of all the ceremony, to do it only once, and when this code is there, there is no more ceremony to add. It's also useful to fix some metadata which are missing because package author didn't put all the necessary information. Rave also provides a REPL version. So inside your Grails console, you can look at your dependency and how things are loaded. One great thing is also this concept of Rave starter. The idea is to take like a framework like Angular and provide a way to work with it in a minute. So in general, it's an opinionated starter. And the way that you use it, you just install it and start to really work with it and directly put your business code in it. If you don't like it, you just remove it. There is a few availables already. And if you want to create some, you can create your own. You can debug things with Rave there is some basically data attributes that you put on your HTML that give you information for debugging. And there is different level of debugging which is available. The bad news, it's not production ready. It's a new thing that is coming now. So, but let's see how it works. So let's build a simple, really simple application with Grails and Rave, Angular. So I'm here and I will create a Grails application in REST, a RESTful controller. So hello service. If I put create apps, that will be better. And so here I'm just creating a simple application where I will create one domain object, one controller, a RESTful controller. And I'm starting. And then I will put a client side with Angular, with Rave and Angular, and do a call on REST to it, to my Grails backend. So I say I want to create a domain object. Say hello. Next thing I'm doing is creating, generating the RESTful controller for my domain object. And then let's just have a little look about what's on it. So if we look at the configuration, the first thing that I will do, because I say I'm highly opinionated, is get rid of jQuery. That's, yeah. It was just for the pleasure. It's not mandatory. So, what else would I? It's good to do a joke, but I lost the thread of what I was doing. Okay. Controller. No. My domain object. Where is my domain object? Because I need to put something on it. Let's do something really simple on this domain object. Let's put a string with some content, and that's it. Then what I will do is, in the bootstrap, I will create something. And import hello service that hello, and here I will do a new hello with some content, and I say hello from Dallas. That's save. I'm really optimistic that everything will work. Okay. So next things, no, No, not here. In the URL mapping, in general, there is a mapping on slash, which go for an index.jsp. So what I do in general is just coming here and removing it. So like that, the index.html is picked up. Otherwise, you have to put index.html yourself. And I think that's it for the Grails part. One great thing about developing single-page application is REST is one of the best patterns to be able to discuss from your client side to your Grails backend. And the Grails controller, which is provided by the scaffolding, is a good start. I still don't understand why by default it provides JSON and XML. I would say that if you build single-page app, you only want the JSON part. There is some stuff around the transactional part on the Grails RESTful controller that could be moved somewhere else, but it's a good starter. So here we are on the Grails side. So what I will do now is going to my, if we can see something, hello service. I will go in the web app, and what I will do is just do a clone of a Rave starter. So I go on github.com/RaveJS, and I pick up the Rave start Angular from here. And it won't work because there is a lot of things which has been generated that I remove first. So I clone this Rave starter in the web app directory. And now if we look at it, what we have is a full application which is supposed to work. I will just start my Grails application. So inside, what we have is we have a simple index.html, really simple starter here, where inside there is a data Rave meta, which say you will use here Bower by default. So then what Rave will be doing is looking at the bower.json, which is here, and pick up the dependencies. So it knows that it needs to load Rave Angular. Then, because it's an Angular version, there is a main.js, which is specified here, app/main.js. So you go in this main.js file, and inside, basically there is a setup already done for you, where it's for the URL slash, it will go to the base HTML and call your hello controller. This hello controller is part of this hello module which has been loaded here. And if we look at the hello module, Angular will pick up the main.js here. The hello module is composed of a controller, a directive, a filter, and a service. So here we enter in the Angular world. Myself, I still don't understand why directives are called like that. I don't understand why it is called like that. I'm still lost with it. So I will only look at the controller part, which is here. And basically, that's here that you will put your business code to connect to the Grails REST and backend. One thing you need to do is still to do Bower install to grab the dependencies. if we look at it, lequel je vais utiliser? Local host 8080/hello service. Hey. Nothing is happening. Demo god are not with me. Oh, Grails is not starting properly. Ah, it's not starting. That's why. Ah, no, it is starting.
You have it running in another window. LSOF-I:8080 will tell you what is bombed that for.
No, no, there is an error. I did an error. Yeah, I did something bad somewhere. Okay. That's latest one. Be nice. I deleted the application context. No, what did I do wrong? I'm lost. That's fine. I will stop the app. About 8080. Should have done that step by step instead of doing everything at once. That should work. Okay.
column in the build config file?
Yeah, I think so. So the thing I did yesterday doesn't work either. Oh, cool.
Just redo it, redo the whole thing. One more time, it's like maybe 5.
Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
What was that?
I will do step by step this time. There is a problem with the network. Okay. Okay, this one is working. We'll never remember. What did I do? Like, okay, ready? Stop. Cool. Sorry about that. Generate RESTful. Okay, I have the RESTful controller here. So, okay, là, CP start. to avoid to do, I will just copy from my backup. Hello service / web app. Oh, okay, cool. So I'm back. Sorry about that. So what you can see, it's simple. That's what I say. A simple application that gives you all your Angular. Inside Rave, what you will have is already inside the browser. You will have a REPL available. So if you're here, you turn it on the REPL, and you can do a rave.dump. That will show you, if I know to type, console. Rave.dump. Thanks. So here you have information about what has been loaded. And basically, you can see how it has been loaded, this Rave. So you see that inside the metadata of this one, it has different dependencies. It has been loaded by Bower. There is a main, there is some metadata, there is a module type, which is a non-module type, which has been loaded. And what you can do is no. If we go inside the Rave directory, inside the controller, here is to connect to the REST backend. So what you can do here is adding an HTTP file. You inject the dependencies, which allow you to access the HTTP object. HTTP. Okay. So here, what you do is you can just do an HTTP call from your URL. So /hello service /hello /index. So it means you will get basically all the list of hello. And on success, you call a function which has inside the response object. And what you can do with Angular is it has this concept of two-ways binding. So here now what I will do is just having something set on the scope, so data. We take the response, take the first element, and the content. But I didn't create, so that won't really work because I didn't finish. But I'm stressed now. So that's the way you will connect to your REST backend. That's all you have to do to connect to it. Here, you put in the controller. It means that you have no ceremony code to do by yourself. It's all there for you. So it offers the principle of having the directive filter already set up for you. Angular and all these dependencies are there. You can just start to work. That's really the idea around Rave. I prefer to come back to the slides. One thing, so I was speaking a lot about the MVCs, and I say there is 70 MVCs to choose from. So the MVC, first of all, it's not called MVC anymore in the JavaScript world. It's called either MV whatever, MV what the fuck, MV presenter, MV VM, MVV. So try to figure out what will be the last letter. MV what the fuck is probably the best one because we have no idea. So the single page architecture for your web app will be done to have model present inside your application that you will synchronize basically with the server side. So a controller to dispatch the data, and then your view model. You need a router to be able to do, depending on your URL, where you want to go. You need a way to manipulate the DOM API, but you can directly use it using HTML5 API. And some kind of templating to be able to display the fragment. On the server side, we have everything on the RESTful web service part with Grails. One thing which is a bit missing is the notification part, which is quite important, which is to be able to enable WebSocket and get notification, instant notification. So especially on mobile application, instant notification is quite important. So there is a few Grails WebSocket plugin, but for the moment I think it's still on the work for me. Maybe with like Spring WebSocket being integrated in Grails, it will work better. If it's not already done in the latest version, I don't remember. But that's really the simple view of single page architecture. And one of the things is the Spring people here are providing not only RaveJS, but they are providing cujoJS, which is an MVC also. This MVC has a Spring-like feeling. It's functional, oriented around functional programming. And the main difference is that it's really using the prototypal roots of JavaScript. One of the things, it doesn't try to be a framework. One typical example with Angular, you get everything. You have like a big massive things with Angular, with everything. Each time you try to want to go away from one part of Angular, you will feel the pain. It's really hard to go away from everything in Angular. It's still a good framework and it's still a really nice MVC, but the way cujoJS has been designed is small libraries which work well together, but which also work with other libraries. And it's only focused on HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, so no CoffeeScript, less, etc. So small packages, around 10 of them today. There is a few more coming, like most, where I am a contributor to also. And it allows you really to have an MVC, connect with REST to your backend. It has promises implementation for JavaScript. And one thing, for example, there is Wire, which does dependency injection for JavaScript and manage the lifecycle of the object. So here is an example where we define hello, which is wired, and when it's created, it will pass some there is some argument which is done at creation. And when it's initialized, it will call the method say hello on the JavaScript part. So here is an example of dependency injection done in JavaScript. That's done by, there is a good way to do that is with with aspect-oriented programming, which is also possible in JavaScript, to be able to change and add behavior to methods. So the way it has, what can be done in JavaScript is that the simple version is basically like keeping the original version in a value, do something and call the original version on it. That's a simple way of doing aspect-oriented programming in JavaScript. Meld is offering the same kind of capacity, but with a more compatible way with, I say, something like aspect-J. So it provides really the after, before endpoint. So if you mix AOP plus dependency injection, so meld and wire, that's what you will have at the end, where you do your declaration. So if I look, there is a Rave starter that I wrote. I can show you the code of the Rave starter, that will be better. And don't save. So you will find exactly the same kind of structure, and there is a reason. Having an app directory is considered as a best practice in JavaScript. So you have your index.html, which sits on your root. Then you have an app directory, where inside you either have your different model objects, so here it's a welcome, and inside you have your controller, your view, etc. Or some people do app, and then they have a directory which is called controller, a directory with their views. So there is only two ways. But that seems to be what is accepted in the JavaScript world. That's how you put your directory structure. And inside, same thing, you have your main.js, where you do your declaration. So here it's exactly with dependency injection and AOP. So here I'm declaring an hello view, which works with a template file. It works with I18N, so internationalization. So you can have these things here. And here specific CSS, which will only be applied to the template. And what you say is you will insert this view in the first element of the body. Here you are creating a controller, and this controller I'm passing a node, the first span of the hello view here, and I say when it's ready, call the hello method. So inside welcome, we will find the controller in the same way, and we will have the hello method, and that's where you will put your REST call. Where it's different from things like Angular, it's not one dependency that you will have. You have multiple dependencies. One I say it's when, because you need it's a promise implementation in JavaScript. Meld for the AOP. Poly is a polyfill, so that allows you to use it in different browsers and still working fine. And then the REST API. And it needs also RaveWire. One thing also, Rave provides way to load not only JavaScript, but be able to load like text file, CSS, images inside your JavaScript code in the same way. So that was the code for cujoJS. So some key takeaways are, in conclusion, RaveJS is a way to simplify the life of JavaScript developer and JavaScript engineer. cujoJS itself, in general, provides architectural toolkits which are easy to use, simple, and easy to put in place now with RaveJS especially. Grails provides the best server-side infrastructure, for sure. One thing that I'm still missing is because of this Grails JavaScript love-hate relationship, it doesn't seem that there is a real integration of these two worlds. And for me, that's one of the biggest mistakes. There is a need to really integrate these two worlds together properly. So that's all. Do you have any question? Yes.
So you propose not using jQuery, or just dropping jQuery?
So the question is about jQuery. jQuery has a purpose for some application. What I'm saying is it shouldn't be the default for everything. And one other thing is I think the community should put some pressure on jQuery so that they have really modules. So like that, basically when you minify jQuery plus jQuery UI plus a sliding panel, you have like 50K that you are loading on your application, and just to do a sliding panel. I take this example, quite bad, that's because it's inside the new Groovy website. That's exactly what they did. They just imported 50K of JavaScript to do a sliding panel. And that's wrong. You shouldn't use jQuery that way. It's not because, and also the people are so used with the dollar and putting query selector, they sometimes import jQuery just to do that. They could do document.querySelector and then have nothing to import. So there is a purpose for jQuery, but it shouldn't be like the default way of working, for sure. Other thing, if you try to perform, for example, if you try to mix Angular and jQuery UI, it doesn't work at all. At all. You are not able to use jQuery UI plugins with Angular properly. It's always a mess. You will have to put 10,000 directives to make it work. It's not a natural way of working with Angular, for example. It's really hard. So there is a project, for example, for jQuery Mobile and Angular. They had to wrap every object that it is inside jQuery Mobile to make it work with Angular properly. So people are really, in the Angular community, for example, they are going away completely from jQuery. But because there is so many people who are using jQuery, there is a tendency to not say the thing directly like that. So that's why I said at the beginning I am strongly opinionated. But it's something in the JavaScript community, there is a lot of people who do not want to use anymore jQuery, yes.
Well, I know, I'm not trying to give you my time here. We're doing a project that uses both Angular and jQuery, but obviously, like you said, jQuery is a big grab bag.
Mm-hmm.
It is kind of horrifying, like, I want this little thing, and I just grab the whole thing and drop it in there. Then you want something else, and you realize it's still in there. This thing must be huge.
Yeah.
But we're not using like jQuery data tables or any kind of data binding or anything.
Okay.
We're using selectors, we're using dialogue, we're using a couple of other jQuery features. So far there hasn't been any like Angular. There's been a few hacks I've had to do to make it like scope.apply.
Yes.
Wrap some of your code in a timeout with a value of 0 to make sure that
Mm-hmm.
it's finished before you make your changes. But I almost think that would happen just plain JavaScript.
Yeah, the thing is, the real idea is to first have a clear separation between your JavaScript code, which is manipulating your model, etc., and your pure HTML and CSS. One thing is that there are a lot of things we can do in CSS3 and HTML5 which were not there before. So jQuery has this advantage to be able to support like IE6. So if you don't have to support IE6, then it makes a lot of sense to just use HTML5 and CSS3 and not use jQuery. So there is this kind of purpose, for example.
So what you're saying is a lot of the functionality is so novel and great for jQuery is now kind of being built natively into the DOM.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I was hoping that would.
Other question?
So, how did you get all this working with, you're demonstrating the RaveJS stuff. What was the step which involved the configuration of RaveJS?
The goal, the goal of RaveJS is zero configuration.
Oh, okay.
There is no configuration with RaveJS. It figures out by itself everything. So that's the goal.
How do you enable RaveJS and Grails?
Just including the RaveJS file. That's it.
Can you show me?
Yes? Maybe I forget to show you that. So if we look at the starter, I will take mine because I know where it is. Okay. Randomly. Here I'm doing boot.js. The reason I'm doing this boot.js is because sometimes you want to be able to have different working environment when you are in development or in production. And inside the boot.js, what I'm doing here is, you see it's including the RaveJS file.
So the folder node underscore modules is the place you...
No, that's basically when you are under Bower, here you have some dependencies. So here I have a dependency on RaveWire. And when I'm doing a Bower install, it will install under Bower components all my dependencies.
Oh. So first I just do Bower install.
You do Bower install to install all the dependencies, and magically you will see that Rave is appearing here.
Oh.
So there is a Rave here and there is RaveJS here appearing. So
Install is that a Windows or just
it's a command line, but which is comes only if you have Node installed on your PC, Node.js.
have install Node?
You need to install Node.js. That's what I said from the beginning is everything that you need to install, the first thing you have to install is Node.js if you want to be serious about JavaScript. It's really the first thing and first step. Once you have done that, you can install Bower, and then you do Bower install. Questions? Yes?
I'm curious about your opinion of Node.js versus Rails.
There are, so the question is, what is the Grails versus Node.js? First, I will rephrase the question to say the JVM versus Node.js, because it's more accurate, I would say. Because if you want an equivalent of Grails in the Node world, you will have to install Express, for example, and you will need to have like data layer, etc. So it's not only Node.js by itself. So JVM versus Node.js, it serves different purpose. Node.js is an event-driven framework. So event-driven works for a lot of cases, but not all the cases. It's also a different set of skills to be able to develop with an event-driven model. So it's really different way of working. The data access layer for Node.js also is not as good quality as a Hibernate version, for example. So there is no need for fight. I think there is a place for both worlds. And in fact, for having, if you are doing microservices, you have some Spring Boot services which are interacting with your database, just use like Spring Boot and it's fine. If it's something that will just take events and take messages and send them somewhere else, maybe a Node.js server will be fine. And you can have different microservices with different technologies. It's not an issue for me. So I think you should really use the whole set of technology. Yes?
I think it's also probably, like you said, the skill set, if you get the right skill set, you already got a lot of JavaScript people that maybe know it makes sense. But also the maturity of the JVM and the enterprise tools.
Yes.
You're missing that in Node. You don't have that. So it's a trade-off.
Questions? Cool. Thank you very much.